Thank you, Madam Margaret Sekaggya, for availing yourself of this important occasion to the run-up of celebration of International Women's Human Rights. You have been a remarkable career and trajectory of life as a woman human rights defender, rather a very famous woman human rights defender. From leading the Ugandan Human Rights Commission in Uganda, which you were founder, you set up a very high standard, and that's when I met you, when I came first to Uganda in 2005. And then you worked a very special mandate as a UN Special Rapporteur on human rights defenders for 12 years, crisscrossing the globe from Latin America to Far East to Fiji to European countries to Africa, you name it, and making impactful work. I have accessed all your reports and compendiums. Copies are in my office, bind it together, and I always make reference on that. What inspires you to take this path? You have chosen to be a woman human rights defender.
Thank you very much, Hassan. We've known each other for a long time now in the human rights struggle. It's very difficult to tell you how I became a human rights defender. But I started as a young lady, right in school, fighting for equality. And one of my stories is when I went to school at Old Kampala, it was a mixed school. Indians, whites, Africans, they had just amalgamated the schools. And there was this lady who was discriminating against Africans because they were not used to having people in schools who are of a black color. So whenever a black person came late, they would say, "Stay out, you are not coming in." And then the others will come and they will go in. So I hatched this idea that I'm going to deliberately come late so that I challenge the status quo. And I did. So I came late, and the lady asked me, "Margaret, you are late, stay out." I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to stay out." She said, "Oh, you will stay out." I said, "I won't." So I walked into the class, and everyone, all the students looked amazed. And she said, "Let's go to the headmaster." He was Mr. Jones. He was a white man. As I told you, the schools were amalgamated. I walked to the headmaster with her, and then he said, "What's the matter?" We narrated our stories. And I said, "Headmaster, I'm not going to allow to be discriminated. When other people come, they allow them. When blacks come, they don't allow them. Therefore, I decided I'll come late purposely to test her." He looked at me. He said, "Go back to class." She walked back to the class. I walked back to class. And from the entrance, I went stamping my foot. Pow, pow, pow. That was the beginning of my journey for fighting for inequality and challenging discrimination.
Very good.
So when they gave me this job as at the Uganda Human Rights Commission, I had 3 jobs. They had appointed me a judge of the High Court of Uganda. I was at the Electoral Commission, and the minister by then asked me to set up the commission. I went to my family and I said, I have these 3 jobs. They said, please become a judge. I said, I know why. They want me to be a judge. I went, and the next day, the minister rings and says, what have you decided? We are waiting for your answer. I said, I'll set up the commission. And he said, that's very good. We were looking for someone to set up the Uganda Human Rights Commission. I went to the Solicitor General and I said, so where is my office? Sorry, madam, you might have to be on the street because we have no office for you. But there is a building at Arua Park, you know Arua Park,
yeah,
which had been used by the Human Rights Committee, which was looking at investigating human rights. That's where you will stay. It was leaking roof, no chairs, nothing. I said, but I'll take it. So we went 7 commissioners and started the commission. I said, I'll do this job. So that's how I started. So I left a job as a judge. I left a job as an electoral commission and became the first chair of the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Interesting trajectory. I'm really amazed at the young age where you stood up to challenge discrimination against the natives of this beautiful country, and you won the case, because when you make a call for justice, quite often justice prevails,
Yeah.
quite often. Thank you. Looking back on your tenure as a UN Special Rapporteur, what were some of the most pressing challenges women human rights defenders faced globally? And do you see any improvement now?
When I took up this job, women human rights defenders, we are facing a lot of challenges. Of course, you know, discrimination generally for women, and also you find that it was very difficult for them to bring up issues at the international level. And they were fighting, they were struggling to bring up their issues. But I wouldn't say things have changed a lot, but we've made improvements.
Yep.
Because women can now go at the international level. They can go to the General Assembly, they can go to the Human Rights Council, bring up their issues. And that's a big achievement. Some were not even allowed to leave their countries. They will come and they will not be able to go back. So the fight started in the Human Rights Council with the movement of women human rights defenders to be able to bring up their issues at the international level.
Very good. And I know they carved their own corners by even going all the way to the Security Council.
Yes.
And the women now have an agenda there to speak up what's going on. DefendDefenders campaign this March, which now is the second, is about celebrating her courage, quote unquote. Celebrating her courage, women's courage we are talking about. What does a courage mean to you in the context of women human rights defenders?
For me, courage means standing up. Courage means being able to speak out. Courage means being a woman who can stand and face authority and be able to bring out those issues even against all odds.
Yeah.
Because as you know, sometimes it's not safe. Sometimes it's not easy to bring up issues. But courage to be able to speak, to be able to bring out issues, to be able to fight for others who are facing difficult times.
I totally agree with you. Can you share a moment in your journey when you had to draw on immense courage to continue your work?
Many instances.
Yes.
But I will say that at the international level and also at the local level. Should I start with the international level?
Yes.
I went to Kashmir. And
Kashmir is in India.
Is in India. And the government said, you are not going to go. I said, I've come here on a country visit. I'll go to Kashmir. In that case, sense, we are not covering your security. So we took a helicopter and with the UN staff, we went to Kashmir. I met these people. You know what was going on in Kashmir. And people were dying, people were disappearing. This man came to me in a meeting crying and said, Madam Special Rapporteur, could you help me to bring my child back? And he broke down and cried. You know what? I cried.
Yeah.
He had lost his sons.
Oh.
He said, can you bring them back? And I was helpless. I said to them, I'm going to take this issue at the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly. And I did. In my country report to India, I did bring the issue at the Human Rights Council.
Very good.
Locally, you see so much going on. You have to stand up. It's your country. I was UN Special Rapporteur. I had to come here and deal with issues at the local level. And I tell you, the time they started the torture, it was a very difficult moment for us to look at people being tortured. And we started the hearing of cases and bringing out these issues at the local level.
Yeah.
To ensure that torture does not go on. But another moment, when they arrested the Buganda ministers, you know it was a difficult moment. They disappeared, they were put in cells and what. I asked the police commander, we must visit them, give us access. And they gave us access. They went to the prisons, Nambo, Maeka, Zegona. We get to the prisons where they were being held at night. And we came up with statements. You know, they were taken to court.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult moment to bring out such issues, but
because of your courage.
We had to do that.
Wonderful. That's I could say is both internationally and also locally. It was a very big, courageous time. The theme of this year's International Women's Day campaign is accelerating action, quote unquote, accelerating action. is the action here. In your view, what urgent actions needed to be taken to ensure the safety and well-being of women human rights defenders in the Eastern Horn of Africa and beyond, particularly in Uganda?
Yes. Accelerate action.
Accelerate action.
Women need to be encouraged to do their work. You know, some of the things going on now, like gender-based violence, very challenging, very difficult. It's gone on for a long time. We have to find strategies on how to stop gender-based violence.
Yeah.
I think you saw during COVID how it even went up.
Exactly.
And quite a number of organizations have started taking up this role. And I think it's very important. Women should not be abused. Gender-based violence should be stopped.
I agree that it must be stopped. Women human rights defenders often face unique challenges again, including gender-based violence, as you said correctly, and discrimination. What strategies you have to found effective in addressing these issues? It's really coming again and again, gender-based violence and discrimination against women.
I think
What you can point some strategies to fight them on?
we have to work together. We have to sensitize the men also. We can't just tell women
Yeah.
what to do. We need to ensure that the men also are sensitized. And also, I think it's so important to set up special homes, because some of these cases cannot be stopped. You see a woman being violated, being taken back to the home, and the violence continues. Do we have shelters which can help women to recuperate, to be able to bring up, when you bring up those issues so that they can be helped and find shelter? And the work which many organizations are doing to help these women is very important.
Thank you. As we mark 20 years of DefendDefenders, you are founding member.
I am.
You launched the DefendDefenders
I did.
in Entebbe
Yes.
in 2005. You are one of us inaugurating conference, Defending the Defenders, a human rights defenders conference in Entebbe, Uganda in 2025. What do you consider to be the biggest achievements of women human rights defenders in the Eastern Horn of Africa over the past 20 years?
We have brought visibility to the women. It wasn't like this. Everywhere you go now, it's women human rights defenders. And we have produced women who can stand up.
Very true.
We have produced organizations which can bring up these issues. It's important that the women also learn to do it themselves. Quite a number of organizations are here.
Have emerged here in the Eastern Horn.
They have emerged.
Yeah, and they are standing up on their grounds. Including, I like the program you run, Phenomenal Woman, which brings together top women in the society and also grassroots activists to
Talk
together and devise common strategy to raise the voices of women in Uganda. I think that could also become regional. And we have to aim also the East Africa, Horn of Africa. And I know one happens in Geneva, which is a global phenomenon woman. But those are the efforts which you have taken on your own, and we really thank you so much. Yeah. The final question I want to ask you is that in this campaign, we are honored the courage of women human rights defenders. What message do you have for women who are standing up for justice despite facing threats and intimidation? Like the way you stood and put your feet on the ground. You stood for justice.
True.
What message you have those young women who are standing up for their rights?
You women out there, have courage. Don't give up. Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
You know that song?
Don't give up the fight. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Thank you so much, Madam Margaret Sekaggya.
Shouldn't give up
The fight. Exactly.
And we must help each other.
Yeah.
And we join hands with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As people who actually care about women's rights.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very thank you. Thank you so much.